All right, welcome to another edition of the Quarantine Check-In. My guest today is one of the newer comics on the Detroit scene for about a year, right?
Yep.
Please welcome the very funny Sara Young to the show. Sara, how are you holding up in this time of quarantine?
My life outside of comedy is shut down. I do laser engraving and I can't get to my equipment to continue working. So it's been trying to fill the time and stay productive and not lose my mind like everyone else.
How are you keeping productive?
A lot of webinars and e-learning and networking. So when things open back up, I have all sorts of new connections to jump in with both feet and keep things going.
Yeah, I am. I got laid off 2 weeks ago. They were recording this, and I have been in a job search ever since. And you know, trying to find a job in a pandemic is not fun.
No, no, I have a couple people in that same situation and Zoom interviews and all sorts of weirdness. I have one friend that started her job the day everything shut down. So she knows she's been working online, and so she knows she has coworkers, but she has no idea what they look like. She has no idea where her office is or where her desk is or where anything is, and she's been there a month already.
That sucks.
It's
Even worse. I have a friend who left a job in Alabama, moved to Austin, Texas, just as this was hitting, and he immediately got laid off.
Oh my God. Yeah, no, it's definitely a mess. There's a lot of networking though, so I'm hoping some of the connections I've made will pan out in in a couple weeks or a month or this year.
When do you think we'll be able to start going back to some sort of semblance of normal?
It's a slow rollout here, and I don't think everything is going to be open until maybe the end of June.
I think
I don't know when restaurants and all that will hit, and I'm sure there's going to have to be distancing and not full houses anywhere and all that.
what I don't think restaurants will be open until July, if that.
Yeah.
I'm worried about one of my favorite restaurants to make fun of, Old Country Buffet, that they will never
Exactly.
ever reopen.
Yeah, there's one right by where I live, and it's just strange. The couple times I've been out to all the empty parking lots, it's very strange.
But I mean, most restaurants are still doing curbside or carry out or drive through.
Yeah,
But I think the buffet restaurant will not be allowed to exist once this is over.
that would not be surprising. There's a buffet, a hibachi buffet by me also that I can't see staying open.
Where do you live in Westland, right?
Yeah,
Right.
I'm right by Bill Morrison.
Well, Bill's in Canton,
Well,
so
yeah, but yeah, he's like 2 miles from me. I'm
yeah.
right on the corner.
So I know the Old Country Buffet or the Golden Corral. Sorry, Golden Corral.
Yeah.
That is over by the Myers over
Yes.
there. Okay. So let's talk about comedy. How did you get started doing it? Or let me ask the question: why would you want to do the most horrible thing in the world, which is go tell jokes in front of people?
Well, it started 12 years ago. I was at a Second City show when they were still downtown in Hockeytown Cafe. And on the table, they had, stand-up flyers of come be funny with us, come take classes. And there wasn't a chance in the world of me doing that. But the last class they listed was a writing class. And I've always and forever written. That's my first go-to. And I've always been a storyteller. And so I said, I can do that. And then I told some friends and family, and no one said it was a bad idea. So then I was like, oh crap, I have to do it because I told everyone I was going to, and they're going to ask about it. So I started with that, and uh, Tim Robinson and oh, brain's dying. He's been in Veep, and they did the Detroiters.
Okay.
They were both teachers of mine, and the first lady, who's now the director of Second City Chicago, she asked everybody at the class, why are you here? And they wanted to improve their improv and all this. And she got to me, and I said, I am perfectly happy giving the funny people my words, because I have no intentions of ever being on stage. And she's just like, uh-huh, all right, we'll see. And I did the whole program, and it's a year long. And the last class is you wrote a stage show for Second City, and you had to have people audition, and you hired the people that are going to be in your show, and it was a great experience. But I'm sitting in the audience watching everybody laughing at the show, which was a great show, and I realized they're laughing at the people on stage. They're not thinking about who wrote the words and which set was, which person's. And I got really angry, because I realized that these people that are now my friends are stealing my laughter. That pissed me off. So then I went through 2 years of the improv, and I got into the conservatory, and I went through all that. And that ended up in a stage show that we self-wrote at that point. And then I didn't do a lot since then, but I've missed it. And so a couple Decembers ago, I was watching a lot of stand-up, and I was watching Ellen and Kathleen Madigan and Gabriel Iglesias, and I said, they're just talking about their life. That's all they're doing. And when I get an idea that I need to explore, my stomach turns inside out, and I break out in goosebumps. And I thought that, and then I was like, all right. And so I Googled classes, found Mark Ridley's, and this was a Friday, and the next class with Bill was starting Monday. And so I started, and it's addictive. It's just it's addictive, and between the two, I find improv scarier, because you don't know what's going to happen. And with stand up, you have more control over that, and what you want to do and what you want to say. So for me, that's actually less scary than improv.
I will say I did improv for a very short period of time. Let me tell you, I took a class when I lived in Atlanta,
Mm-hmm.
and from a place called the Whole World Theater. And I thought improv was really, made up on the spot. I didn't realize until I took the classes that you pretty much knew what you were going to do, that someone was going to call out something, and people are stupid. They call out the same stuff. So it was really rehearsed, and I thought I didn't like that. So
Yeah.
I didn't really do improv after. I never pursued it after that first class. But I did take the Second City writing course back when they were in Novi.
Yeah.
And I went through the whole thing, and then about 3 weeks before, right as we were starting to prepare for the show, I quit. And I took all of my material. I think I had 3 sketches that were going to be in the show, and I just took it because I can be an asshole prima donna. There was a person on the show, and everything that she wrote was about Russia.
Why? Right.
There was a sketch in there that I didn't feel comfortable, that she wrote, that I didn't feel comfortable with. And I want to say, I think it was like an incest sketch. And I can't be part of this. I can't have my material there. So I walked. And it was sad, because I had some really funny bits, but yeah, I couldn't have any of my stuff be in that show.
Yeah, mine wound up being mostly mine. A good friend of Alan Black, Bob Wittersheim, was another co-writer for my written show, and we basically wrote most of it. There was like one other person, and he had one thing that was in there, but I had a lot of fun. But yeah, they were stealing my laughter. And then I know Dan Britton through improv, and when he was in the finals at Mark Ridley's a couple Januaries ago. I went and saw him because I was right when I was taking Bill's class the first time. And I said, what do you like better? And he said, the risk is greater when you are in stand-up, but the reward is also greater because all the laughter is yours, but all the bombing is yours. So you just have to weigh that. And I find I feel the same way. It's just I like having the control over what's happening.
I agree to a point. I think improv, there's a better chance of success to moving to the next level. One of my classmates in the writing class, Katie Thomas, she left Second City, moved to Chicago, created a troupe called the Katydids.
Yes.
They created a series called Teachers, which got picked up for 3 or 4 seasons on some cable channel.
It wasn't Comedy Central. It was one of those, though. It was like an off-brand.
TV Land.
Yeah.
And I think that's awesome. It's a lot harder for a stand-up to make that jump.
Yeah.
I'm also, it's weird. I'm right now, I've been watching a lot of, stand-ups on YouTube, and they've been moving more into sketches. It's just by themselves, but it's not just stand-up routines. It's more or less just them taking something of pop culture and trying to create something around it.
Yeah. No, I'm friends with Katie, and yeah, it's Sam Richards. That's who I'm thinking of. Sam Richards is huge, and Tim Robinson made it to SNL, and it's crazy. And these are all improv people that are just. Jamie Moyer has done all sorts of voiceovers, and she's been a regular extra on Modern Family and Two Broke Girls, and it's just crazy to see these people I love dearly, and I'm watching the TV and there they are, and I'm like, this is nuts. There's a lot of Detroit talent that's here, though.
I keep on forgetting Tim was on Saturday Night Live, I think for 1 season.
And then he was a writer. Yeah.
And there was another guy from Detroit, another Second City guy who was a writer, and then he was a featured player, then he went back to being a writer, and I can't remember his name.
Yeah, and Keegan Michael Key got pulled right out of his level 5 improv Second City class to they pulled him right out and just said, we want you, and grabbed him. It's crazy.
Yeah, but he kind of floundered he was on Mad TV, wasn't he?
Mm-hmm. And then Key and Peele, and they had their duo for years.
Yeah, and now Keegan's a popular actor. Key is a well-respected horror director.
Yeah, that is crazy. I tried to watch it, and he just like got in my head, and I'm like, oh, Jordan, man, what are you doing? Like, so different.
I think Get Out was probably one of the best horror movies of the last 5 years, and Us, I had too many questions walking out of that one. And his revival, The Twilight Zone, I thought was really good.
The revival's really good, yeah, and Get Out, that just totally got in my brain, and I was just like, I'm not sleeping for a while. That resonates. That was really good. Well, it got an Academy, didn't it?
I don't know. I don't bother with the Oscars. Most of the movies that get nominated are too classy, and
well, I watched it because he was there, and I think he did pick up an Oscar for that. So that's just nuts.
He won an Oscar for it for best, probably best writing. Probably best writing.
I think so. Writing or directing, one of those.
I should have my crack research staff look into that.
Yeah.
So what are your comedy goals?
I would love to be a huge local hit right now. I'm not looking for national attention, but that's what's also so frustrating is I was hitting a groove, and I had like 3 or 4 sets just right back to back, and they were clicking, and people were laughing, and people started calling and saying if I was available to do stuff, and then everything slams down, and like I feel like I'm set back at the beginning because everything is so rusty.
Well, I mean, but we're all going to be back at the beginning.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I have a feeling a lot of the shows that were going on won't exist when we come back.
That's very possible.
I mean, I'm worried about the comedy clubs. I'm worried about my venues. I'm worried about every venue because there's a chance that people are not going to want to have comedy in there, especially shows that draw, because one, you'll have to turn people away because I don't know if you've ever done the pizza and hummus show.
I've watched. I went to one of them, but I haven't done it.
But you know how that room is pretty enclosed and pretty packed in.
Yeah.
It'll have to be half the people in there.
Yeah.
And it's not going to, it'll make people angry that they can't get in. And the venue is not going to want the responsibility of, oh crap, all these people on there. If one person has it, my restaurant is shut down for God knows how long.
Right.
And I'm worried about that. I'm trying to figure out how am I going to be able to practice my craft, do my art, and still get an audience. Like the virtual mics, I don't know if you've done any of those.
I did Emily Sabo's first one.
How was that?
It's rough. She tried to have a laugh track so that if she thought something was funny, people would hear laughter. But, everyone is, I didn't have, I tried standing up for it. And so I had my camera set up, but I couldn't even see everybody on Zoom. So I couldn't see if people were clapping, and there's no feedback. It's rough.
Yeah, I did one for some new comic whose name I can't remember. And someone had their TV turned up from the audience part. I'm like, it's rude enough when you're talking at a show, but it's even ruder when you purposely come on this app and you're watching Home Alone or Home Alone 2. And you can't fucking turn it down.
And so much of the jokes is going to be hack. I mean, I had 5 minutes set up on trying to teach my mother how to Zoom, and it's like everyone's going to be doing that. So I'm just throwing that out because everyone's going to be doing it, trying to find different angles to everything. But it's rough. It's rough. What was solid before, is it still going to apply after?
Well,
it's just
that's a worry I have. Like my material is kind of dark. Are people going to be in the mood to laugh at dark jokes? And that's something I talked to Sam Rager about. I would love to talk to Noah Chap about that as well, because we're kind of there. And
yeah.
are people going to want to hear about people killing themselves? Because right now suicide rates are rising. And I'm like, I think that joke I might not be able to tell that joke for a while. Or, people self-mutilating is up right now. People are not going to want to hear jokes about that, or people reminded of their own mortality, because we've all gone through this horrible, horrible thing. I mean, being stuck at home is bad, but also we know people who are sick, and thankfully I don't know at this point, I don't know anyone who's died from it. I don't know if you have.
I have.
I'm sorry to hear that, but we're all,
yeah, it's crazy.
It's just terrible. And the death rates are still rising, and
people don't take it seriously. Just and Tom Swan was one who was just like, I don't know. And now Tom's like, no, this is real. This is huge. You can't be stupid. You just can't. So I feel safe when he is comfortable reopening the beach. I know that he takes it seriously and he'll have good control of the room. I think that'll go forward. But other rooms, both the Gillerans are luckily doing well, and just a lot of people have been hit.
Yeah, I'm really surprised that the comedy community hasn't been hit harder here in Detroit.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I still was doing shows up until early March, like I did Pizza and Hummus. And then I was going to do a Bernie thing out in Ypsilanti, and thankfully that didn't happen. But like a week after, not even a week after, a few days after, I only got a message that the bar right around the corner from there had cases. And
Yeah.
it's like, fuck.
Well, Robin had it.
Yeah.
Robin Gillerin, and I did Smokies. I did their room. She had the sore throat and wasn't feeling well at that time. And she was like sitting right in front of me. We're sharing the mic, and I talked with her, and she says, she says, I feel so lucky. She goes, I had no idea because we didn't think it was prevalent. And, my doctor said it was allergies. And she goes, I did that mic with you. I did another mic with Adam Walsh. She goes, I went to the Comedy Fest in Grand Rapids. She says, I had a commercial shoot, and so I had my hair and my nails done. I was around all these people, and none of these people got it except for Jason, and his was super mild. So she got lucky.
Well, it did. It doesn't mean we didn't get it. We could have been carriers.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm thankful that I haven't had any symptoms, but every time I had a cough, I messaged my doctor, and he's like, "Do you have a fever?" I'm like, "Nope." "Do you have a cold?" "Nope." Then he goes, "You are just being, the typical Jewish hypochondriac." I'm like, "That's what I know." That is what I know.
Yeah, no, my parents my parents they just secluded themselves like in January, and my dad dragged my mother outside for the first time over the weekend in like months. She wouldn't even go onto her back deck, and I'm like, you don't have to. There is the divine, and then there's the sublime, and then you're just like, oh my God, they have masks, they have everything they need, but she's just in a panic, and I was just like, oh my gosh. But every time one of my dogs sneezes, we yell COVID at it. So that's how we deal with it at our house.
Well,
But yeah, it's scary.
that's scary that pets can get it.
Yeah, there's not many, but some. But yeah, no, they just sneeze and yell COVID and make them go away from us.
So, if all the mics that existed before the quarantine, which is the first one you're going to hit up?
Even if I'm not up, I want to be at the beach and just show Tom support.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I was really worried about him. And
Going to the hospital and everything, but the fact that he could stay off the ventilator, I think, is what was so key.
yeah,
But yeah, that was so yeah, definitely the beach, on the rocks. Christine needs support. Those two for certain. Probably 342, although Mark has been talking about not continuing it.
really.
Just in passing, he's just like, I don't know if I want to continue this. I don't know. Just a moment of self-doubt. And he had a thread on Facebook about it, and people were like, no, you are a good person. And usually, I get angry at people. Like, everyone gets angry. So he's kind of been throwing it around. But
Yeah.
I hope he'll still do 342. So those three. And, Mark Ridley's, if they're still doing open mics, the usual suspects like that.
I hope they do. I hope it's no longer the 16 people open mic.
Yeah.
I hope it goes down. And I'm not saying that because I don't like the 16 person open mic. It's just that when I host it, I have trouble remembering everybody's name.
Exactly.
And that's just terrible. I should be able to know every comic's name on there, and 16 people is way too many.
I bring 3x5 cards. I have to write it down, otherwise it's going to be gone.
I just take a sheet of paper and then I'll talk to them beforehand. But last time I hosted, there was this fuckwad. I don't remember his name, and he wanted me to call him something, and I'm like, I will not call you that. He's like, come on, man, call me that. I'm like, no, because it's so fucking stupid. And he badgered me to do it. And then I went out there and called him that, and then he made a stupid joke off of it of how I mispronounced his name.
Oh, not cool.
I'm like, and he must have brought a lot of people because he got a really good reaction to everything. But because he was such an asshole about it, and maybe if he told me what he was doing, I would have been more keen. But he is.
You could have played onto it too.
He's one of the two people now who is on my do not book list. And I don't even remember. I don't even know his name. So, that could change if and when we come back from this, and if any of my shows are still alive after this is over.
Yeah, I hope they will be. I mean, people need to laugh. It's just, they do. And it's part of the healing process, I think.
But I
But
agree, people need to laugh, but I think people are going to be leery about going out. There'll be that one weekend, and then someone will get it again, and we'll all be back inside hiding for God knows how many weeks.
yeah, I've decided though that I'm not calling it quarantine. I've gone into seclusion, because seclusion sounds royal and regal
Oh,
and a lot fancier than quarantine.
I mean, I'm in exile from life right now, except for going to the grocery store and going for walks and runs. And I think once the weather starts getting nicer, it is going to be so hard for people to stay inside. And that's when I'm worried about shit going bad.
Well, I was I'm right by Hines Park, and I do a lot of biking and walking there, and took the girls out on Sunday, so it was so beautiful, and the majority of the people were wearing masks. Everyone was keeping their distance, but there was a family, parents weren't masked, and their little child, about 5 or so, were masked. And I have one that's really cool. I have a friend that's sewing them and donating and selling them. And so the fabric is really cool. And he's like, why is she wearing a mask? And, it was like right as we walked past them, and the parents didn't know what to say. So I just said, because I'm a superhero and you can't know my, secret identity. And he was totally cool with that. And I'm just like, man, they need to take care of themselves. It was just a family together, but they need to be careful.
I'll wear a mask to the grocery store, but like when I'm walking and running, no. That's because my glasses just will get blurry.
Yeah, I do. Well, I have allergies, all the pollen and the white fuzz from the trees, and actually that stops. My allergies aren't as bad as they usually are because the mask stops it. So I'm kind of using that during allergy season for my bike rides, because it catches all the fuzz I would be eating otherwise.
That's good. I have asthma, so I'm just praying I don't get anything. And you're right. My allergies are usually bad this time of year too. But hmm, I don't know. So let's go back to comedy. So when this is all said and done, what are your goals? Oh, I already asked that one, didn't I?
Yeah, well, yeah, goals. I'd love to be a regular host at shows. I'd love to do some, big Tommies to, if they're still doing it. Um, I'd like to get to where Bill Morrison is, because, he's just incredible. And I'd love to have people know they could count on me, and be able to MC and host and you know, feature. I'd love to feature eventually, but baby steps, get my feet wet again, and back to all that.
Yeah, I am. I don't know what, it's weird. I don't know what my goals are anymore, except, still do this, but this has fundamentally changed my outlook on lots of things.
What were your goals before this happened?
My goal was to, by this time next year, be a host, get a weekend at Ridley's hosting. Um, then also to start working up towards feature sets on, smaller shows.
Yeah.
And, keep on producing. But the producing part, I love doing it, but it's really hard, because I was going to actually rethink how my shows were booked.
Mm-hmm.
Decide which, because I was supposed to have 3 rooms starting in March, but it was not to say there were A or B rooms, because all my rooms are A rooms, but just trying to figure out what performers work best in rooms. Like I was
Sure.
going to book you in June for the show in Adrian, because I think that's the room you would probably excel best in.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Compared to Green Brain, which is more alt, and I don't know, the other room was going to become a room where we were going to try to get like out of town comics, and
Yeah.
I don't know if any of the shows are coming back. I would probably say the show in Adrian will come back because they're a small bar just attached to a theater. So that one I don't worry about going out of business, and it's a small room. The comic shop, I don't know what their appetite's going to be for comedy once this is all said and done. And we never had the first show at the other place, so who knows if they're going to want anything.
Yeah.
What was the concern was we had probably 60, 70, between 60 and 70 people who bought tickets or downloaded tickets for it for a small space. And I think if that show came back, we couldn't advertise it because we couldn't have that many people in the room.
Could you cap it though? So once the tickets are downloaded, it just shows it's sold out?
Yes, but the problem is when you have free shows and people download tickets, you would
Who
say
shows up?
20 people of that might not show up. Like there was a show I accidentally put 80 tickets up for the comic shop, and as I was setting up that night, I realized 80 people can't fit in this basement.
Right.
And I was praying to God not everyone showed up, and I don't usually pray, but I don't want the fire marshal coming down there.
No.
So I don't know. I mean, I'm now worried about the safety of the audience and the safety of the comics. And I worry about mics. Mics are thick and filthy. And
Oh, I have these. I have these just in general for flu season because I'm high risk, but the microphone covers.
yeah, but those are only good for like one person touching it. But
Well, I have a whole bag.
I mean, but when you have, like, again, if we're doing release 16 comics up there, do you give them their own microphone cover?
These were cheap, so I fully intend to come in and just like here, keep yourself safe. I'm looking at getting my own mic, just playing with the idea. Just is it worth it, and what's going to be safest?
Yeah, it's just worrisome. Like when we come back, I'm also worried, and I don't know if I'm worried. I don't think a lot of comics are going to come back from this.
I think the ones that it's in their blood will. The people just getting their feet wet probably won't, but I imagine it was similar after 9/11. The world before and the world after was so different.
But
It was
9/11, nothing was shut down except in New York.
true.
I mean, you could still go sit down at whatever restaurant. You didn't have to worry about anything being contagious. The only thing we were all worried about then were people, if we were going to get attacked.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to tell you a funny 9/11 story. I had no idea it happened
Oh my gosh.
until that night. Like I just moved back to Detroit from New York, and I was just watching DVDs that day.
Yeah, I know. I had the TV on. I was getting ready to go to work, and I was watching. There was something on BBC that America that I always watched, and I was so irritated that the show wasn't on. And then I turned everything else on, and it was all for this strange thing happening in New York, and I was just like, oh my god. So I kind of watched it as it happened, but yeah, initially it was just like, why isn't my show on? This is irritating. Wrong reaction.
I just felt stupid that one, no one called me, and two,
Yeah.
that I did not stop binge watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer just to see what else was happening in the world.
Well, if you don't know.
But it's like I was talking to my mom, and she's like, "Oh man, you're lucky you left New York," and I'm like, "Why?"
Exactly.
Oh, yeah, that sucks. I would have had to walk back to Queens.
Well, it's like when the power grid went down here, and the first thing I do is go wandering outside to see what's going on. Something like that. You should just stay put and probably not go wandering around to figure out, what nuclear thing happened. But yeah,
I don't know if I can live through another event like this. I mean, I lived through 9/11. I lived through this, hopefully, and I can't do it again. I'm like, actually, take it back. I would live through the beginning of Red Dawn. If that happened, I'd be like, all right, I'm just going to go out and say, what are you doing here?
Yeah, that first like couple weeks, that was just the roughest. It's like everything was fine for like the first 30 seconds that you woke up, and then it's just like reality. My husband's working from home now, and like for that first 30 seconds it was quiet, and then I'd heard him talking, and then like he's not supposed to be here, and then it's like, oh man, it's not a dream. What, that was just rough.
I thought working from home was terrible, and then it was like a week and a half into it, I started thinking, all right, this can't last much longer, because it felt like as a company we were just going through the motions.
Yeah.
And I was glad that they were doing that, but when I got laid off, it was kind of like a relief in some sense. Like, all right, I can start looking for something else and take my time doing that. But it was just, you would sit up at night hyperventilating, going, man, this is terrible. And for the first time ever, it was something I had no control over, because
Yeah.
this virus has just basically plunged our country into hell. And it's weird that we say we are the greatest country in the world, but we are the worst at handling what's going on.
Right. Totally in denial. It's just totally, this can't happen, and our leadership is missing, and it's crazy that people are trying to keep us safe, and people are getting angry and fighting against it for basically nothing, and it's psychotic. It's crazy.
Well, the protesters who went down to Lansing to protest the stay in order, it's like, back in the 60s and 70s, the protests were about peace, that people had something to say. And now we've gotten to the point where people are protesting they can't get their hair cut. Like, up until a week ago, I had the shabbiest beard in the world. I would have killed to go to a barber to have them shave it off. I couldn't do that. So I went and bought razors. I didn't realize that when a beard reaches a certain point, razors are useless.
You have to trim them back with a scissor first.
I had to
Don't
go.
ask me why I know that.
You have a husband, so yeah. But no, it's like you can cut your own hair. It's not going to look good, but it's not like you have anywhere to go.
Exactly. I have a lady that I have been seeing for 100 years. She's a friend of mine, and I'm just like, Kathy, man. And she says, I will tell you what over-the-counter hair color to do, so to get you through. But promise me you don't take scissors to yourself. I'm like, all right. And so she's gone natural too. She was, I've done my own hair since I was 17, and she's in her 50s. And she was, there's like 4 times in my life someone else has touched my hair, and she says, but I'm showing solidarity, and I'm not doing my own hair until I can do your guys' hair. And I'm like, all right. So we all look disastrous.
Well, I think once this is lifted and barbershops are open, you will not be able to get in for a while.
No, it'll be a good month until you can get in, I'm sure.
Yeah, so I can now clip my own beard.
There you go.
Not that I'm ever going to let it get that bad again.
Yeah, yeah, it's I'm doing what I can, but I'm not as spiffy as I usually am. That's for certain.
But yeah, no one is. Again, we're all on the same page here. Unless you are married to a hairstylist, then you are in a really good position.
There is someone on Instagram, I've been following her, and she's a hairstylist, and her husband has long, wavy, beautiful hair, and she puts it in she does it different, and they dress it up, and that's their thing, and they're in isolation like everyone else. But it's hysterical feed. And, he was Princess Leia one time, and she had it all spiked up into a mohawk, and, and they find props around the house, and there's just these ridiculous pictures of him with his hair, styled for a hair show, and just props they could find in their house to pass the time.
I don't have any props, and I don't have the hair to be transformed into Princess Leia.
Yeah, no, I have no props, but yeah, my dogs are beside themselves when things get normal and I'm not home 24/7. They are going to be in serious mad withdrawal.
How old are your kids?
My dogs, they're just the
Oh,
two
no.
dogs. But yeah, so they're just like, oh hey, the lady's still here. Rock on.
Oh, my cat hates that I'm home all the time because I've learned that my seat is his seat during the day.
Of course.
I've also learned we're on the same bathroom schedule. Like he'll go to his litter box, and when I walk out of the bathroom, he walks out of his litter box. I'm like, this is just too weird.
You shouldn't be synced with things like that.
No. All right, Sarah, this has been awesome. Before we go, I don't know if you've seen this before, but I've become a big fan of Craigslist misconnections.
Okay.
I am going to read one to you, and hopefully you can riff a joke off of it. Because
I will try.
The most creepy, horrible people actually write these things. Some are intentionally or unintentionally funny. This one is from, they put anywhere. Hello, ladies. Just bored at home with all this going on. Curious, since we not out like normal, who wear the shortest shorts and skirts, like to see you in them from behind or even less. Make my day, girls. No punctuation in there.
No. Such a ladies' man. So drastic that, this can't meet in real life. It's a missed opportunity.
What it is this guy doesn't realize that women find grammar sexy.
It's true. Punctuation, I want to eat, comma, grandma. I want to eat grandma. Totally different.
It is. And the comma adds that dramatic pause, and sometimes that pause makes all the difference.
It does.
It gives that anticipation. So my suggestion for this guy is, if you want to truly be a ladies' man, learn punctuation.
That is good.
Well, Sarah, this has been a blast. Thank you so much for doing this. Hopefully I will see you sooner than later, and stay safe.
You too. Thank you for this.
You're welcome.